Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Podcast Coaching for Kingdom Entrepreneurs. I am your podcast coach, Kristen Chadwick. And if you can see me here in the YouTube space on the video, I'm sporting my daughter's Dutch Bros hat. She works there. Shout out to Dutch Bros. I know some people give them a hard time for all how chatty they are and yappy they are. And yep, that's why my daughter works there. But they genuinely love people. So go get a coffee from Dutch Bros. This is not sponsored by them, but it kind of should be, don't you think? Anyway, today is podcasting Q&A day, and today I am answering one of your questions from a dear listener today. And here is the question: what is the best way to engage my podcast audience? And this is such a great question because engaging your audience is going to take your current audience from a casual listener and turn them into a community that not only sticks around, but also shares your podcast with others, which we talked about that last week on the Q&A. That is one of the greatest ways to grow your podcast is serve the ones that are in front of you, and natural multiplication is going to happen. So let's dive into some key strategies to make your audience not just listen, but also truly connect with you and your message. So, number one, we need to create that engaging content. We talked about that a little bit last week. First and foremost, that content has to be king, in the words of Dave Jackson. Content is king. Your content has to speak directly to your audience needs, pain points, and desires. So ask yourself, what are they struggling with? What solutions can you provide? And make sure that every episode is offering value, whether it's encouragement, education, entertainment. When your content resonates with your people, naturally they're going to engage because they feel seen, they feel known, they feel understood. This just happened to me as I was listening to a brand new podcast that I've been following. I immediately reached out as soon as that episode was over because I needed to connect with her and just be like, whoa, this was so good and it touched me deeply. That's what we want, my friends. Number two, we need to use call to actions. So, one of the biggest missed opportunities I see podcasters make is not telling what the audience to do next, or it's overwhelming what they're telling them what to do next. So, don't assume that they know exactly what you're needing or how to take the next step in your relationship, quote unquote. I love one of the experts that have been in my podcast episodes in the last few months. They said, think of your podcast episode as your first date. You don't want to ask them to marry you, AKA join your coaching program at the end of the first episode. You just want to offer what's the next best step for them to move forward. So it could be send me a DM, join my email list by downloading this freebie, or comment on a social media post. Be clear and specific, like screenshot this episode and share it on Instagram with your biggest takeaway. Tag me at Kristen Fields Chadwick so I can shout you out. That's a great example right there. That simple ask can increase engagement exponentially because you're giving them something to do. Number three, engage off the podcast. So the conversation doesn't stop when the episode ends or the recording ends. You want to engage with your audience through social media. And this is why I'm a huge advocate for social media, because it's one of the best ways to interact with your people. Also through your email newsletter or private Facebook group, you can do polls, Q&A stickers on your stories, responding to DMs, all to help create this two-way conversation. The more that you're engaging with people outside of your podcast, the more connected to your audience you're going to feel, and they're going to feel with you. Number four, involve your listeners. People love being part of the process. Invite them to submit questions for Q&A episodes like this one, or share their thoughts, or even feature their success stories on your show. You can also use voice notes as well. Just have somebody, like if you know a good friend of you good friend of yours listens to the podcast and they are sending you a voice note, ask if you can record it for the podcast and mention their voice note. That right there is a simple act of like, hey, I'm really talking to people and I'm really responding to people. And it creates that community feel, not just a one way conversation or a one way podcast. Number 5, be consistent and authentic. We talk about this so much is consistency builds trust. Whether you post weekly, biweekly, or monthly, stick to your schedule. Beyond that, just show up as you. Share in your personal stories on your social media, do behind the scenes moments, or even just real life moments, maybe as a mom or, in the carpool line. People connect with people. I have one guy who we do podcast management for, and he talks about his whole running journey. He's about to do a 100-mile race, and he's been documenting all of that. And I think that's really important for people to connect with him as a real life dad who is training in the midst of building businesses. And you can do that too. So, as you heard in our emerging trends, authenticity is one of the best ways to connect with your audience in this season on Instagram, on TikTok, social media, like Facebook, all of those things. People want to see all sides of you. Number 6, and this is our last one, is experiment with interactive content. Consider hosting a live Q&A event or a challenge or even a private podcast for deeper engagement. This has been pretty cool. I've discovered on a new favorite hosting platform that I recommend for all of my clients now, which is called Captivate.fm. Inside of that hosting platform, they have a tool that you can create a private podcast. I did it for my Master and Growth Cultivate. Oh my goodness, Master and Cultivate Growth podcast course, so that people could just listen privately to a series of trainings, and instead of having to watch a video or something. So think about that. Those are some good ideas of how you could interact with your people, create that private podcast, or you could even do Patreon or buy me a coffee to create VIP listener experience. So all of those are a great way to take your listeners from just listeners to a dedicated community who are engaged with you. And engagement really just is not about numbers. It's really about those one-on-one relationships and even community together. So your podcast isn't just a platform, it's a ministry, it's your message, it's a movement, it's a kingdom impact. So start those conversations, invite that interaction, and make your listeners feel like there's a part of something bigger than just another download number, right? So I'd love to hear from you. What's one engagement strategy that you've wanted to try and are willing to try in these next couple of weeks? And I'd love to hear from you. So send me a DM or comment on today's podcast episode. And man, I can't wait to hear what's working for you. Also, if you want to go a little bit deeper and you're looking for more ways to grow your show, join my podcast membership. Inside, you're going to get exclusive content, live Q&As, coaching calls, episode audits, and a supportive community of podcasters just like you. So reach out to me, click the link in the show notes, and it will take you to schedule a 15-minute free phone call with me. Until next time, keep showing up, keep podcasting, keep speaking boldly, and keep trusting your voice. It matters. See ya.